So, today on I'd Like to Unsubscribe, episode 5, we're dealing with unrealistic expectations. We're pulling back the curtain on the relentless pressure to be the perfect caregiver, the eternal youth icon, and a superwoman, all while managing an autoimmune condition. We're talking unrealistic expectations, burnout, the science behind it, and most importantly, how embracing our limitations can actually save us energy for the things that truly matter. Because let's face it, if we don't learn to say no and celebrate our quirks, we're going to end up so burnt out that our idea of fun is just taking a nap right when we finally got a chance to do something we actually love. So grab a cozy blanket or keep sitting in that car, but buckle up because your soul needs this one. Are you experiencing symptoms of lupus or feeling alone on this journey? The Lupus Foundation of New England is here to help you. They're dedicated to supporting those living with lupus, offering education, resources, and a community to help you navigate the journey. From learning about symptoms and testing to upcoming events and research, the Lupus Foundation of New England has you covered. Visit lupusne.org and connect with others who truly understand. You don't have to do this alone. Visit lupusne.org. That's lupusne.org today. What if the life you planned vanished overnight? For Marisa and Britt, it was painful chronic conditions without cures. We lost everything: our health, independence, careers, and even our sense of self. But in the wreckage, we found something unexpected: a chance to rebuild. Welcome to I'd Like to Unsubscribe, the podcast for anyone feeling stuck, lost, traumatized, or just straight up over it. This isn't about surviving illness or trauma. It's about ditching the toxic beliefs holding you back and even daring to dream again. We're bringing real talk, hard-earned wisdom, lots of sarcasm, and practical tools to help you rise. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll remember, even in the darkest moments, hope is still alive.
Welcome back to I'd Like to Unsubscribe, the podcast where we cancel the subscription to impossible standards and upgrade to a life that's filled with joy and peace. Today, Britt and I are going to do a deep dive into the dumpster that is unrealistic expectations. A deep dive that often leaves us feeling exhausted and frustrated. But hopefully, after today's podcast, your deep dive leaves you finding a bouquet of roses. You see, life has a funny way of piling expectations on people, especially women. And the world, particularly social media these days, tells us that we are supposed to be a superstar in every single role. That's mom, spouse, friend, employee, caregiver, social butterfly, the fitness guru, gourmet chef, and oh yeah, you're supposed to effortlessly put it together like you are about to walk on a Victoria's Secret runway at all times. Now, if you add a chronic illness into this mix and suddenly you're expected to do all of that, but the reality is you barely have enough energy to get out of bed, this doesn't sound fair, right? Well, it's because it's not. And yet, so many of us fall into the trap of feeling like failures because we can't keep up with this. But here's the truth: nobody can keep up with all of those expectations that I just rattled off. It's impossible. And yet, we still fall into that web of lies over and over and over again. So, let's break down some of the unrealistic expectations that society throws at us and talk about how to let go of some of that and let go of the guilt and pare down to what truly matters and still lead a fulfilling life while doing all of it without running ourselves into the ground.
Yes, goodness, that was amazing because there is so much we are expected to do, right? Okay, let's start with just the pressure cooking that is caregiving. Holy cow. Society expects us women to be the ultimate nurturers. We got to care for our kids. We got to care for our aging parents, our partners, and even our friends. The research from the AARP shows that women provide nearly 70% of all unpaid caregiving in the US. That's extra emotional labor, and it isn't just exhausting, it's a major burnout contributor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a crazy statistic, 70%. You know, we're bombarded with the message that we as women, we must always be on, right?
Yes.
We're supposed to
Yes.
be like the go-to person. You can call me, like, we need to fix like everyone's problems. We can't show any weakness. Like I feel like I'm always there, right? If someone needs me. But if you're managing an autoimmune condition or a chronic illness, right, on top of that, I feel like every extra responsibility can tip that balance that we're like right at that tip of I got this to oh my goodness, I'm completely spent and I can't even like lift my head off the pillow right now.
Oh, right. Because nothing says modern women like juggling a full schedule, managing all the flare ups, and facing that constant pressure to look like you've discovered the fountain of youth, which honestly probably has like fluoride in it and will be banned soon anyway.
So I'm just gonna say thank goodness for Ulta and Sephora and for makeup because yeah, they're very helpful at times when you're just truly exhausted.
Preach.
Uh, it's true. I mean, there's so much that's put on the plate of women. Society tells us that we need to push harder, we have to hustle and just try harder, right?
Ugh,
I literally cringe when I see the word hustle used over and over again online. I see it on
yes.
Instagram all the time. Trying to be superwoman when your body is staging like a full-scale rebellion every day, it's like trying to drive a car that has three flat tires and no gas. Okay?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not going to end well. But sometimes I think social media culture makes this worse for us because like we are getting this false image embedded in our brain daily that everybody else seems to be doing it all
Yep.
like and perfectly. So why can't we? Like why are we feeling burnt out? But I think first, like you have to address the lie of all of that, like the worldly lie that is being like pumped into your brain every single day. Everyone else is not doing it all, right? We are
Yes.
seeing a glimpse of people's lives, the really, really good stuff that they want to put out there. So putting things into perspective is the key, number one, right? And then
Yep.
let's talk about burnout. And like, what is that exactly? Like, burnout isn't just like, I'm tired. It's this state of this chronic physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. Sleep and naps are not helping. Burnout, it creeps in when the demands, whether it's like external or self imposed, they become relentless. And I try to think of it as our body's way of screaming, please stop. Like, I cannot keep up with this level of stress. Please take something off of the plate.
Yes. Yeah. And y'all, here's the kicker like, burnout is number one fueled by an overload of unrealistic expectations. That constant trying to be the perfect caregiver, the perfect partner, the perfect employee, that internal youthful persona, it all sets the stage for a complete energy drain and meltdown. There was this stat from the American Psychological Association, and it just really jumped out to me. It's saying that prolonged stress increases cortisol levels. That's nothing, we're unfamiliar with. We get that. But is often as much as 20% above normal, which
Mm.
obviously can then trigger or worsen autoimmune flare ups. Like, this is just the cycle that we get ourselves into. This is vicious. The more we push ourselves, the more our body is going to push back. That's just how it works now. So, living with a chronic illness can so easily lead to living with chronic stress, right? Because we have the physical and the emotional and the mental things that come along with this. And this prolonged stress can lead to anxiety and depression, even trauma responses like that hypervigilance. I can never calm down feeling of, what's around the next corner. I, get scared by something and my body freaks out. You're always worrying about the next flare up or even avoidance. We shut down when it all feels like too much. I mean, I've never done these things, right? Except for yesterday, right? So, like, these are the things that happen. So, is it any surprise? Then when we feel like we need to be doing everything and be everywhere and show up for everyone else, but barely ourselves, is it really any surprise our body is driving us into burnout mode and we can barely keep up?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you actually brought up the hypervigilance and even the cortisol, because I just think of like how many people with autoimmune or just chronic illness, like different chronic illnesses that deal with like adrenal fatigue, because that hypervigilance, like we call it the shoe drop syndrome in our house. Like I always feel like I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop. Because for so many years, it was like one thing after another with my health, right? And then you have just all the regular life on top of it. And when you're
Right.
just staying at that like level 10 all the time, like your adrenals literally cannot keep up with that forever.
No.
Like you weren't meant to live in that manner, okay? Like, I'm going to throw my faith in here for a second. And I know that everyone here, we believe different things, but like, I don't believe that God designed us to live in that state,
Amen.
for prolonged periods of time, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to also piggyback on what you just said about living with a chronic illness. Like you're already living with so much extra stress and pressure. So I feel like we're already consistently living in a space where things are pretty packed high on top of us. Like I always picture like a mountaintop, and I feel like we're literally, I don't know if you remember that old Price is Right gosh, that game where he was like climbing up the mountain really slow and then he would just fall over, right? I can't remember the name of it, and I'm showing my age here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, it doesn't. I used to be. He would be like Odelehu, like that guy. Do you remember that guy? So it doesn't take much to push us over that edge, which is why I think it's so crucial to be so vigilant about what other things that we take on and what we allow in our life. And that also brings me to like what we say no to and what we say yes to, right? It was really hard for me to say no to things for so long at the detriment of my own like physical body, that I was like, Marissa, you have to like really figure out how to politely and with no guilt say no to people, because you are going to kill yourself with how much you are trying to take on, because I don't want to let anyone down, right?
Yeah.
But when we become so territorial over our space and energy, which I think is something that we have to learn, like you may have feelings at first that like you're missing out or that you're letting people down. And I know that's a terrible feeling, but I think in time, like as these boundaries become more clear for you, you learn it is not your job to be everywhere or save everyone. And our commitment needs to be first made to ourselves, because the reality is, if we can't function, if we can't lift our head off the pillow and get our morning medicine in and, and start our day off like without just going right back to sleep because we feel awful, like there will be no progress or joy like found like in
Yes.
other areas of our life, right?
Yeah.
But yet I feel like putting ourselves first, like if we're always putting ourselves past this like breaking point, especially women. I really saw like through lupus check, speaking with hundreds if not thousands of women over the past 10, 15 years, when someone is living with a chronic illness or an autoimmune disease, or even for the people that have experienced this hellish trauma in their life that impacts their life on a everyday basis, I've noticed like they go above and beyond with this unsustainable level of motivation. Like they're
Yeah.
extremely type A. I definitely see a personality type over and over again, because I feel like there's a voice almost in the back of our head that, by the way, is telling 1000% lies that we aren't good enough, or that we don't want to be a burden to people. And we don't want to look lazy. And so we have to, therefore, prove ourselves to everyone
Yeah.
that we can do it all,
Yeah.
like
Work harder.
everything. But eventually this is at the expense of ourselves. And Britt, you and I have both done this in seasons in our life, and we've both been really open about it. And even if we just talk about like one of those things that we mentioned, be the perfect spouse, be the perfect employee, be the friend that's always there for people, caregiving, I'm going to tell you a story about caregiving. About 2.5 years ago, I found myself face down on a carpet in complete tears, okay? I rarely get emotional in that way, but it was at a time when my health was really in a bad spot. We had just like moved across the country. I was physically just down, and I was caring for my mom who lives with me, and I still care for her every day. But was before her two surgeries, and she couldn't walk. So she was confined to this real like recliner bed chair, and it was the mobility issue and the bathing and the feeding, and just, and I would do this to my dying day because it's my mom. She's my best friend and I adore her and I'm honored and grateful that I actually get to care for her, right? Um, but on a normal good day for me, which is not a great day for healthy people, right? Like in the world of chronic illness, a normal day is still a hard day. But
Yeah.
on a flare day, when I could barely move myself and just doing the necessities of that day for myself, even getting upstairs to get myself food, like having to do it for both of us, it created this storm of like emotions of just failure and fear. And I almost felt like I was living in Groundhog Day. And
Mm.
then you add the physical exhaustion on top and you spiral. And I spiraled and I found myself face down in this carpet, hysterical, crying. And it was honestly, it was such a surrender moment for me, this like white flag waving in the wind of God, I cannot do this anymore. Like, please, please help me. What was shown to me in that season was to really give myself some grace because, man, I can be so hard on myself. Like, nobody
Mm.
puts pressure on me the way I put pressure on me.
Yeah.
And I really had to learn to how to redefine what a successful day looks like to me on like a regular normal day for me or a really hard day. Not what I think it should look like because I'm taking the cue from social media or the world around me or like my really healthy friends. Like there should never be that comparison. Because if you do that, I'm telling you, you will set yourself up for some real serious disappointment. And I realize there's a lot to be gained and a lot of growth that can be found in those types of moments that at first feel like we're completely failing in those moments. But I
Yeah.
do think that we can learn a lot about ourselves and what isn't healthy or isn't working. And it's a chance to reset and say, what can change here in my life? Because clearly, what I'm setting my standards to or how much pressure I'm putting on myself, this is not working well.
Yeah. Girl, I remember when you called me about that day with your mom, and you never cry. And so I knew we were at like a level 100 seriousness when Marissa
Yep.
is here crying and she's having a meltdown because I'm the one who's always like, I can't do this. So, I mean, we get to those points though, right? Where we have told ourselves for so long, right? We've become so mentally strong as people with chronic conditions because we have to be. Like, I think some people look at us and think, that's weakness, but I have never known someone in the chronic illness world that is not also an incredibly resilient and mentally strong person because we have to keep enduring. But then at some point, our bodies just say, hey, I've had enough. Hey, this is too much. And we break, so that it so hits. I mean, it hits in such a deep level. So for me, like truish story, right? So I planned this really fun art project with my kids for Grandparents' Day, which is a made up, albeit, lovely holiday, meant to like really praise. And as someone who loves, like, I really love handmade gifts. And also because it's part of my love language and my internal monologue is this like Marine who's like screams like, come through at all costs and like drop it, give me 20, like I'm always like, oh, I got to do this. So I decided I would have the kids make these handprint towels. It was so sweet. So I wanted the grandparents, aka the moms, to feel super appreciated because I don't think their grandpas even cared. Like I don't even think they noticed. So what happened? I came down with a classic case of angry mom syndrome. I'm not sure if any of you have ever had that diagnosis, but it happens about twice a week in my home. So let me set the scene, right? I set up this masterpiece for the creative enrichment of my children's minds and to prevent them from asking for the 70 billionth time if they can watch TV. And I am attempting to channel all of my energy into being a fun mom who doesn't care if the little darlings decide to paint the walls or get paint on the carpet, right? While simultaneously feeling overtouched, overstimulated, and also understimulated, weirdly, all at the same time. So, and then as if like on cue, the kids start squabbling over that 1 cent stinking toy from some dumb goodie bag full of tchotchkes. And because let's be honest, they have now ceased to give a flying fart about the art project to show their grandparents that they are so loved. And that's when mommy snapped, right? It's that moment when all that effort to please everyone and create something special just completely backfires. You're left feeling drained and you're questioning everything about your existence and you have energy left for anything for yourself, right? So that's, that's like some true talk here of me being a really great mom. I have earned my mug of number one mom of the year because that's just the kind of mom I am. But on a more serious level, here's some like real talk. Uh, I'm neither a morning or a night person. I believe you're supposed to be one of them, but I am not. My peak hours are 10 to 2. Um, but mornings can be really rough on me. Like, case in point, Marissa, right? Did I not text you this week? I sent a text message saying, like, I need you to pray for me. My heart rate is ticking away at 140 beats per minute when I walk around. And
Yeah.
I'm like dropping heartbeats like I'm like Dr. Dre. Like, it is not normal what's going on. And I'm dizzy and I have to keep like moving from place to place, but like sitting down because I'm like, am I going to pass out? Right. But by the evening, I'm also then like deliriously tired. Like I can't see straight level tired with my kids. But what is expected in the evenings, especially for a mom, right? We got to have dinner on the table and showers and teeth brushing and story times and prayers and cuddling with two kiddos, right? Who have both decided they need me at the same time. And, you know, this is the time they also want to ask questions like, what's death about? And where do you go? And where do babies come from? And like, yeah, I'm so, like, I can't see straight, right? And I'm like, let's digest this right now. So then, even after all of that's done, then you still need to walk the dog one last time so he doesn't like poop on your carpet. You got to pack lunches and snacks for the next day, or you will be criticized by your children because why did you pack me that snack? Right. So you got to make sure water bottles are filled. You have to fold out laundry. You got to finish up those emails that you didn't get to. And I have enough like of the efficiency drive inside of me that's like get it done, right? Remember C Marine? Um, but I don't have enough to do it with joy and peace.
Mm.
So I feel this sense of impatience and I'm frustrated because my body is struggling and my brain is overloaded from all the weight. So then I go and cry when I take a shower on those nights because it all feels like it's all so stinking much because and like gosh, I hate the use of this phrase, but like dang it, like it's freaking unfair. It's unfair, guys. And like I have to do all these hard things in life, but I also have to do them with the feeling of having like an arm and a leg tied behind my back because I have a chronic illness. And that's unfair. I'm going to use the F word. The fairness, right? Like I just I just want to keep it real because I get it. Yes, life is not fair, right? And you don't need to send me a DM about it or like a scripture, right? I get it. But I want to give voice to that place that many of us really feel, especially as caregivers, because we feel so guilty that we can't be more. We aren't more joy filled or energetic or for heavens to Betsy fun, right? Like we feel it. We know. We wish it were different. It's hard to take care of others when it's hard to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, it really is. It's so funny. I actually thought about that the other day, like to myself. Like, I don't think I shared it with you, but I was like, man, I wish I could like take my mom out. Like, I want to like
Mm,
explore stuff with her and make some more memories, and but like between her health, like where it is right now, and just things that I'm dealing with, like all that's all that can be done at this very moment for our everyday is just getting through every single day, right? So
yeah.
it's like just try to make it as fun or at least quality time that we can while we're here in the house together, whether it's, just chatting over dinner or maybe like watching a movie or something, because that is like the extent of what we can do at this moment.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I can't believe that you're not making like Venn diagrams at like 9 o'clock at night about where do people go when they die. What? Like,
I mean, well,
really?
here's my chart. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, the truth is like if we're running on go mode all the time, you do not have any energy left for yourself at all. And the reality is you are taxing the hell out of your adrenal glands that I mentioned before, and it's breaking your body down. Like your
Yeah.
adrenals are so key. And let's break down the science on that, right? If you're in constant stress mode, like your body is like a car stuck in first gear, your heart's racing, your muscles are tense, every cell is on high alert. Well, if you have an autoimmune condition, like this isn't just feeling uncomfortable at that point, like it can actually trigger flare-ups, right? Hormones and all different things that cortisol like and just our adrenals are in charge of. It all works together and it can definitely impact flare-ups and symptoms. So there was a study in, I think it was a Journal of Autoimmunity, and it found that chronic stress increases inflammatory markers. And that directly, we know inflammatory markers have a direct correlation of worsening autoimmune symptoms. Trying to figure out what's triggering your symptoms but can't put your finger on it? Try Folia, a health tracking app to help you connect the dots and get to the bottom of what's going on. Download Folia Health free in the App Store with invite code LupusChick. Folia is the one app to track it all. Learn more at foliahealth.com/lupuschick. That's FOLIA health.com/lupuschick. Ever wish you could be paid to share your chronic illness story? The Insiders, insights like things you know, matches you to paid interviews, focus groups, and surveys to share your experiences. Visit theinsiders.com to check out our current opportunities for lupus patients. So, chronic stress inflames the immune system, making it overreact, right? Even the National Institutes of Health, they have published so much stuff in the past that prolonged stress not only fuels burnout, which is what we're talking about, but also exacerbates autoimmune conditions by pushing the body into this constant state of inflammation. And it's such an engrossed like state. You're not taking a turmeric supplement and making this better, okay?
Yeah.
That's like a drop in the bucket of where we are at this point. And I'm not saying don't take it because, yes, by all means, do all your things. But there has to be a way to bring us down from this level 10 all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not just the physical toll, the mental toll is just as real, right? Because if we're constantly in a state of high alert, it's really hard to muster that energy to pursue your passions, enjoy that time with your family and actually be really present. Like even if you have a
Yeah.
conversation with someone because you're like right up here and you're just thinking about like what next, what next, what I have to do. I don't feel good, blah, blah, blah. Or just even relax, right? I know that when I'm in these moments and people are like, just, go sit down on your bed and close your eyes for 5 minutes. And it does nothing for me sometimes because I am in I'm like overextended at that point, right? And
Yeah.
it's so hard to come down. And it becomes this domino effect that undermines like every aspect of our well-being. But sometimes I feel like we don't even realize that we are living with unrealistic expectations, right? Because like you might think to yourself, like, how did I get here? Like, how is my
Yeah.
life like this? And just think about what I said. What if we don't even realize that we have saturated ourselves with these unrealistic expectations? And what does that look like? Well, let's talk about a few examples. Like that you should have constant high energy, expecting yourself to power through every day at 100% capacity, no matter what your body feels like, especially if you're dealing with a chronic illness or autoimmune condition. That is such an expectation to put on yourself. Like, I feel like you're just putting yourself up for disappointment and it's an impossibility, right?
Yeah.
And what about like perfect productivity? Believing that you should not need a break or have a day off, like even if your symptoms are flaring up, because maybe you don't want to let your boss down, you don't want to let your family down. Or what about that you should look perfect, right? This flawless appearance,
Yeah.
insisting that you always look vibrant and youthful, despite the fact that chronic illness definitely can take a toll on your body. Our medications can, like you and I have talked about that in the past, steroids, things like that. Um, and what about like never saying no? Feeling obligated that you have to attend every social engagement and every caregiving responsibility without considering the fact that you have limits. Like you're a human being, your body can only do so much, right? We're not a robot. Um, and then, like, this is particularly with like social and online, right? All of these miracle trends and these diets, and that you should follow all of these new diets or these health fads because you want to completely control all of your symptoms. Listen, I'm not saying that some of these things aren't helpful. Like, Britt and I have both done elimination diets, and low
Yeah.
histamine diets. And I have done these things for short periods of time when I am really struggling with like either my stomach or my histamine levels and things like that. But I think to constantly be putting yourself under the pressure of, well, let me try this. This worked for her. Let me try that. You're also messing with your body in a way that I think could be really harmful. Because a lot of those things, a lot of those diets on some level, I feel like they remove certain nutrients, they remove certain things that the body might need. And now I'm not talking about like if need to be gluten free, that you don't like stick to a gluten free diet. I'm talking about that the obsession of trying so many different things
Yeah.
and really taxing your body. Um, and then just also the belief of like total control over your symptoms, right? Assuming that you can manage every flare up perfectly with little or no impact on your daily life. I think, again, we can set ourselves up for failure. Um, you know, Britt, I was just obviously like really sick for a few weeks, and um, it wasn't a flare up sick. I literally got like the flu that went into pneumonia, but it also flared up a ton of symptoms that I have not had in so long, right?
Yeah.
And I even did it to myself. I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm back here. Like, and now, I have to go up. It really bothered me that I had to go up on my medicine again, that because I had worked so long, like years, to get down on it, right? Um, and there was a good day or two there where I was like really beating myself up. And then like I was just like, finally the little light bulb, went off and reminded me again, like, you're struggling, like your body is struggling so hard right now. Like just
Yeah.
give it what it needs in this moment and let it, because your body always wants to bring you back to homeostasis, right? It's trying so hard to bring things back in balance. But I don't know if you've ever done that, but I'm just like, no, it can get through this. I don't need to like help it out. I don't need to give it like this
Yes.
extra medicine. And it's
Yeah.
just it's stupid. Like, why did I even do that to myself? I tortured myself for 2 days. Um, but what are some actual realistic expectations that we can put on ourselves? And your list might look like totally different than this, right? And that's fine. We all have different levels of like symptoms and severity and illnesses that we're dealing with. But what about like variable energy and recognizing the fact that some days are going to be better than others? And it is not the end of the world. And it's okay if you're having a low energy day where you don't really do that much. Like, it's okay. The world did not end because you had one of those days.
Yeah.
And what about pacing yourself? Accepting that breaks and rest are essential parts of your routine to manage symptoms and just have that overall well being. What about just authentic, real beauty? Embracing a natural look, especially on days when you're not feeling your best, and understanding that true beauty lies in authenticity, right? And just being comfortable in who you are. I mean, Britt, you know that I am the former pageant girl, loves makeup, loves to dress
Yeah.
up, and it's great, right? And then, there's my everyday life where just I'm hanging around on the couch and I'm working from home and maybe I don't feel that great and my eye bags are on full display. I don't have a stitch of makeup on. And that's me, though. Like, that is me. And everything that encompasses me is right there. And, I'm okay with that. And I think also, like, a realistic expectation is setting your boundaries. And I know that that can be really hard, especially if you haven't explored that area in your life yet. But prioritizing your needs by saying no to extra commitments that you really do not have the bandwidth for, when what you should, if you do have maybe extra time, focus on recovery, focus on rest. It's okay. Like, I know maybe some of us are programmed that if we do that, like, we're being selfish, and that's very selfish when there's other people that need us. Um, but again, like we said, you will be of no use to anyone if you yourself can't even get out of bed, right?
Yeah.
So let's focus on ourselves there first. And what about having a personalized health plan instead of jumping from one to the other and trying everything that you see on TikTok or whatnot? I worked with a lot of different holistic providers and functional medicine doctors, and even my regular doctors, and also nutritionists, and developed a very sustainable, personalized approach that was meant for what I was dealing with. And when all of that started, I was in a wheelchair. I was severely underweight. My lupus symptoms were out of control. My gut was a disaster. And I have horrible allergies to like almost everything. That approach and plan that they gave me will not work for Brit and will probably not work for you. Okay. Not
Right.
everyone needs to be on a keto diet or carnivore. Just, you have to figure out what works for you. And I'm going to jump in also and just add, if you are sort of fleshing out that area of your life, I talk about this in my memoir. My first recommendation to you would be, if you can, if you don't have the money to go see one in person, then order one of the kits online, because there's some amazing kits online now. But find out what your food sensitivities and allergies are.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
I have done some really clean diets, right? That, are all of the good superfoods. And I should have been feeling amazing. But until I did the allergy aspect of it, especially with autoimmune, because there is such a extremely high percentage of allergic response in people that have autoimmune. I was eating foods that were the highest on my allergy test, but I didn't know that at first because I hadn't had the test done. So here I am. I'm like, I'm eating all these incredibly healthy foods that have all this nutrition. Why
Yeah.
am I sick to my stomach? Why am I covered in hives, right? So I would say start there and make a plan and a promise to yourself to have a personalized approach created. Um, and the other thing I just want to talk about is embrace imperfection. And I know that that is not an easy thing, it's easier said than done. But accepting that managing an autoimmune disease is a journey that is going to have ups and downs, and that's part of your story and strength. And I just think that you owe it to yourself to just remind yourself, like we often say, like it's a roller coaster, right? It has ups and downs. It's just the way it is. And for some of those, it's just a subtle difference, but it can be life-changing. And I'm just curious, like, if you're listening, did any of those categories resonate with you? And what are some areas that really jumped out that you can really reflect on and think about where you might actually be holding yourself to an unrealistic expectation that you're not even sure how or when you placed it on yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, like, as you are talking about those, and obviously we talked about this more than once before we decided to get on and pop our mouths off, but it's like, what am I even doing today? My husband has worked 72 hours out of the last 4 days straight, right? And yet I am still like, my house needs to be perfectly clean or it makes me feel crazy. And I have to make sure that my kids are eating really nutritious foods. And I'm like you were saying, when I go to take a nap right now, which I have to do every day, it takes me all of 15 minutes of the 20-minute nap to just calm down. Like, I'm
Yeah.
there and my body is like reverberating and I'm like, what's going on? Why am I feeling anxious these few days? Like, well, Brittany,
Let's go down the list.
yeah, let's figure this out. It's a real conundrum because even when I know better, you still find yourself going back to patterns that, like the Bible says, like the dog goes back to its vomit, right? Like it's me going back to that. Like, I'm a recovering perfectionist, But what I'm really doing is going back to perfection, right? I've got to keep it going on, right? So it's just, it really hits me. And especially with the variable energy things, I'm always wondering why don't I have energy right now? Well, duh. I have two kids. Our life is crazy. We have a lot of trauma and drama that happens. And I have an autoimmune, and the way mine presents in my Hashimoto's, y'all, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to get my medicine balanced. So it's like every other week, I'm like, Marissa, it's too high. Marissa, it's too low. Marissa, it's trying to kill me today. Like,
Marisa, I'm laying
yeah,
down and my heart's at 160 right now. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
it's so weird. Why is my energy all over the place? Right? Duh. Duh, girl. It's because this is life now, and owning that story and having that be a strength, right? I'm preaching to myself right now. So sorry if this is not for you, but this is for me, right? Own that story because I'm still good. I'm still worthy with it. But y'all, like, how do we actually, as much as we can, right? Because we're going to have these moments, but how do we hit that unsubscribe button on these beliefs and just avoid this burnout? How do we do ourselves a favor? And I think it truly just starts with this shift in perspective. Instead of subscribing to like the relentless, unsustainable pace of burnout, right? Why not opt for this lifetime subscription of cultivating joy and peace? Because I think if we have this checkbox of life, which is like burnout, joy, peace, unrealistic expectations, we know which ones we're supposed to check. We know which ones we want. So, like, how can we really do this? And so, and kind of fleshing it out, like, here's some tips on this. I think first we have to recognize the source. We got to identify the voice of the unrealistic expectation. Where is this all coming from? Is it your inner critic? Mine speaks in a British accent, is a total jerk, right? Like,
Is his name Jeeves?
yes. Jeeves is a real jerk. And he's like, you are not doing that well. I don't know if that was a British accent. I'm sorry for my British friends. I really do love you. I think you guys are wonderful. But is it coming from your boss? Is it coming from your family? Is it coming from your spouse? Is it coming from your air quotes friends, right? Awareness is going to be the first step in breaking this cycle of unrealistic expectation. What is my source? And then I think we have to acknowledge our reality. So I really hate to say this, but you now have a chronic illness. Okay, sorry, y'all. There I said it. Okay, clearly we did not get this lifetime achievement award because everything was going super great and we were being super chill and zen. It's not what happened, right? So if you want to live well from now on, and I think we can all agree that that's what we would really like, right? We are going to need to remember this. We have an autoimmune disease or you have a chronic illness, whatever your brand and preference is, right? Like, wear a t-shirt. I'm sorry, I am moving slowly. I have an autoimmune disease. Allowances are going to be needed. Naps are most certainly required now. So embrace it, right? We also have to then set realistic goals. So instead of chasing perfection, we need to set those achievable and incremental goals, right? We have to have small steps, small bites of that whale. We need to celebrate the small wins as opposed to fixating on the fact that we can't go at the same pace that we used to, right? Like that that pace is gone. And quite frankly, and here's a word for all of our healthy friends. The pace that life has set for us is unrealistic in the, Western world.
Mhm.
Nobody should be keeping up that pace, right? And so the fact that healthy people are trying to achieve it and struggling and it's ridiculous. So to think that with an autoimmune we can do that, nobody can. Like, this is a zero sum game. Nobody is actually doing it. And so we can't. Stop buying the lie, do yourself a favor and be done with it, right? And then I think lastly, we need to practice mindfulness. Now, whether that's a few minutes in sitting in prayer, like I do, or contemplative prayer or meditation, short walks, or listening to your favorite podcast here, making time to recharge is going to be so essential. Your body and your immune system are going to thank you because they need it. And not lastly, because I think this is important. You gotta you gotta laugh at the absurdity like we do here, right? We are so sarcastic because this is all, like I say, buco banana sandwich. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's a word, but it is now, right? Like, this is crazy. So you got to find the humor in your struggles because it can be incredibly liberating. Like, when you start laughing at the unrealistic standards, when you can like realize that you are in a spiral and you can stop and be like, this is stupid, and just like laugh like this is dumb. I'm not doing this. Like, just nope on yourself that day. There's gonna lose some power. There's gonna lose power because we have to stop comparing, because we need to break up sometimes with something or someone, for a moment or for a lifetime. Because maybe right now, trolling, and God loves some trolls on, Facebook, right? Like, trolling through Instagram at every break that you have is probably not what's best for your mental health right now. Maybe you need to unsubscribe from some friends that don't show empathy and make you feel less than now. We have to stop comparing ourselves to that perfectly filtered life. We know this, right? Like, this is not, nothing here is so monumental. What? Is social media not great to be on all the time? Everybody knows this now. This is a thing, but we we just don't always follow it. We don't take our own medicine, right? So we
Yeah.
need to unsubscribe from that. And then everything is going to feel much better because you're going to stop feeling so less than now.
Yeah. And, Britt, it's like we know these things, but I think that reminder of, sometimes we just need to hear it from someone else, but maybe not everything like on those things that we were talking about resonate, but there might be one or two like, yeah, I do put this unrealistic expectation on myself. Like, when the heck did I start doing that to myself,
Yeah.
Um, and then what can I do? Like, I know, especially when I was sick, it was a good reminder in those last few weeks. I cannot be on Instagram during that time. Like, I sort of just back off of social media because it really messes with my mental health, like, and just my emotion. Because I see people traveling and they're working out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can barely get myself inside and get myself a
Yeah.
drink right now. And it's also just that reminder, like a week ago, I was good, like I was strong before I got sick, And so it can really just push you backwards. And I feel like what are a lot of us doing? Like, we're trying to work on things and move forward and heal and get healthier, right? So there's some things that are going to have to be let go. On those days, I really try to laugh. Like, I love that you brought up laughter. Like, I love Frasier and I love the Golden Girls. I grew up with them. And I just go back to old episodes and I will just sit there and watch some of it, or I'll just watch like some funny videos that are online just because I just want to laugh, right? Like, things are hard enough.
Yeah.
And so, or I'll call my friends that are understand the whole ridiculousness about everything, like Britt, and we just laugh about the absurdity. And, you feel that pep afterwards. And those are the people that I just think, you remind yourself to have stuff like that in your life. You had so many things that you talked about, Britt, that I loved. And I just want to remind people, like, unsubscribing isn't about abandoning your ambition, right? It's choosing sustainability. Just think of that word sustainability versus burnout. What can I actually sustain? What is healthy for me? What's healthy for my family? What's the best for my body? And that might change from season to season, but really reflect on just the sustainability in your life. It's about saying, I'm enough as I am right now in this moment, even on the days when you're completely exhausted and your body isn't cooperating. Like Britt said, it's celebrating those small wins. Did you get out of bed today? That's a win. You're
Yeah.
breathing? Thank God. You took a shower, pure victory. You washed your hair, like that should make your entire day. I remember like just now when I was sick, like when I finally was able to wash my hair, I felt like $1 million. Like it just, you know, you get it. If you have a chronic illness, you get that sentence that I just said. Did you answer your emails without feeling like your soul was being drained through your fingertips? Like, amazing. You kept your plants and yourself and your kids and your dog alive. Like, then Britt and I are giving you a gold star, right?
Yep.
Life with a chronic illness means that you at some point have to redefine success and what a successful day looks like and a successful life looks like for you, not for every other person. When you stop trying to be that superhuman and you can start to live more authentically, like that in turn is where you start to see that joy and that improvement in not just like your physical health, but also your mental health.
Oh, yeah, because embracing our limitations can honestly be a transformational act. You know, like our
Yeah.
favorite researcher, Brene Brown, we got to, rep her every,
At least
every
every other
episode.
episode.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, we love the girl, right? She writes, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. And oh man, like, does that hit, right? Like, I'm owning my story. This is the power of understanding our limitations, that this isn't weakness. It's self acceptance, right? Like, when we acknowledge our limitations and we stay within the boundaries that those limitations create, we're actually freeing up space in our lives and minds to go after the things that really bring us joy and really fill us up. Like, I know limitations are often seen as restrictions. I have felt that way for many years, right? Like it's a limit and I can't do more. It's something that's holding me back from growth. And I know that that's how it can feel. And honestly, it wasn't probably until maybe 3 years ago. Like we're not talking, like 10 years ago. I realized this. Like, y'all, like in truth, like it wasn't but many, a few years ago that I was able to kind of come to grips with this, right? I always thought, well, how was I going to be able to dream or work or care for my kids? And I've had many seasons where my job, like air quotes job, is looked very different, right? From some high powered positions to a stay at home mom to an interior decorator. And it wasn't through, or it rather was through, like really deep emotion filled prayers for so many years that I was finally able to find a job that would allow me to use my giftings and then still be sustainable for me and my family. And that's hard. Like that season is hard because many of us are, in places where we can't work like we used to.
Mhm.
Or income looks different, or, now we've got to stay home because we can't quite, do the work like we used to be able to do. And so what does that look like? And that can feel really, really scary. It did for me, and we had to pray a lot, but God really came through, and he does, but sometimes it just takes so much longer than we think it will. So please, please don't lose faith if you're in one of those seasons where you're trying to figure out life. What does that look like? What does your job look like, right? Don't lose faith. I promise you it will come, right? I'm the living testament to it, right? So it's going to come, just stay the course, pray the deep prayers if that's, what your faith persuasion is, but it's going to come. Like I'm here, I'm that hope runner for you. It's like when we decide to face our limitations head on, there is such bravery in that choice, right? Like this is the bravest thing we can do. And instead of trying to be this like one woman reenactment of that movie, I love the title. I've never seen it, but everything everywhere all the time, right? We will actually then start to get our energy back when we let that go. We will find this greater, more sustainable source of joy within ourselves. And in short, y'all, this is what freedom looks like. Like when we accept our limitations without guilt, without shame for them, which then gives us the clarity to design this life we actually love, like, man, like that's where it starts. Because in this embracement of limitations, others start to see this purpose fueled life. And it's full of authenticity and it's full of vulnerability because we are not human doings. We are human beings. And embracing your limitations doesn't reduce your life, it's actually enhancing it by allowing you to finally show up for what really matters.
Yeah. So what you just said there, right? Embracing our limitations. I think that is honestly the heart behind this entire episode. If we can recognize and stop and reflect where we have placed unrealistic expectations on ourselves and modify those, we can just start to finally use our energy to show up for what really matters in our life. Again, embracing a limitation isn't a sign of defeat. I know that some people in the chronic illness don't like that word limitation. I don't see it as this negative thing, right? Again, I see us as like we're not robots. Like we all have a physical limit. And when you have a chronic illness or an autoimmune disease, that limit exists, and I feel like it exists in many more ways than the people that are healthy, okay? It's just the truth of the matter. But when you embrace your limitations and you see that it is not a sign of defeat, it's this like secret sauce to living a life that's not about doing more, 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 but about doing the things that truly matter to me, my life, my family, my work, whatever it is that is sustainable to me. You know, Britt and I love really good, like tangible exercises that we can actually like work into what we're talking about. That's how we sort of flesh out our things in our life. So I'm just going to close with a really quick one that you can engage in. And it's really just a reflection exercise. So you just take 5 minutes, sit quietly with a notebook or journal, whatever it is, pause the podcast for a minute afterwards, as I ask you these questions and think about them. Reflect on yourself, your work, your family, your relationships, intimate, friendly, whatever, your personal goals, your appearance, whatever it is. And ask yourself, where have I placed an expectation on myself that I would never place on someone that I love?
That's good.
Would I expect my best friend who's managing a chronic illness to push through his or her exhaustion the way that I expect myself to do it? Like, that's one place that you can, reflect on. What about what tasks or roles make me feel the most drained, the most guilty, or like I'm failing? Are those expectations truly necessary in your life, or are they based on pressure that you're getting from someone? And then this one. If I only had 50% of my current energy to use each day, what would I prioritize? Make a list. What truly matters to you? And then have two sides. What can be let go of, even if it's just for a season, and what can be adjusted? I find this is a really good exercise to reflect on throughout life because every season will be different and adjustments are always needed to be made, right? So, what worked for you 5 years ago, if you did this exercise, wouldn't necessarily work for you today because I'm sure your life has changed. But instead of burning ourselves out until, like Britt said, our biggest accomplishment is napping on the couch, take a page from today's show, from our experiences, hit the unsubscribe button on burnout, and really reflect on sustainability. Give yourself permission to step back, laugh at the madness, and save your energy for the moments in life that really count. We love you, tribe. We're so thankful that you spent some time with us today.
Yes.
See you next time. Enjoy your well deserved nap. Enjoy that little reflection episode. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And make sure that you follow us on Instagram or your favorite social. We love you. See you next time.